What's up, everybody? Another quick video, hopefully. Tonight, I wanted to follow up on this video about how Golovkin had already beaten Bernard Hopkins's defense record, right? Because no contest is exactly that. It's crazy how Bernard Hopkins gets his, you-know-what, slobbered. I mean, Bernard Hopkins gets credit. I mean, think about it. Bernard Hopkins gets credit for a no contest where he jumped out the fucking ring like a coward because he was getting his ass whooped by Robert fucking Allen, right? He gets credit for that as a legitimate title defense. But Golovkin fighting Vanes Martirosyan, oh my God, the sky is falling, right? Not to mention Antoine fucking Eccles twice. Jesus Christ. Can people be any more biased? I don't think so. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. No, my bad. I like the video. Not rate. I like the video. Anyway, I wanted to follow up on the whole Felix Sturm situation. Now, this fucking Manny boxing channel. Canelo o Golovkin? ¿Quién tiene miedo? For those of you who don't speak a Spanish, who's scared of who is basically what Manny is asking, because that's a credible question, right? Fuck out of here, man. Man, all these Cuban fangirls been, oh my God, they've been bleeding from their ears and noses and eyes. Their nationalistic blood. It ain't been looking good for the Cubans, has it? So they take it out on the Kazakh or whoever they can. Ah, fuck them. Anyway, even though I was aware of the Felix Sturm situation, I never read this article. So shout out to Ganjuro, what was it, 77, for sending us the article. Let's read on. Ahmed Urner. Felix Sturm bought his super champion title. Did you know that? December 4th, 2012. An interview with the German TV magazine format Sports Insight WDR on Monday. In an interview, the Turkish-born former promoter Ahmed Urner, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but hey, I try, claims to have bought Felix Sturm's WBA Super Champion title 2.5 years ago in an effort to salvage Sturm's career. Urner told Sports Insight WDR, quote, "With this belt, Sturm wasn't obligated to make mandatory defenses. Sturm was able to fight whoever he wanted to hand-picked opponents. That's how he managed to pocket big paydays with his TV partner Sat1 and he collected 7-figure euro sums for each event. And that's how Felix, over the course of 5 or 6 years, made a nice little fortune." Blah, 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 blah. So, here we go. At that time of Sturm's career, ZDF, a German TV station, did not want to broadcast his fights anymore, and Sturm left the now bankrupt promotion outfit Universal Box Promotion in order to market and promote himself. To all of you webpage designers, sorry, tangent, who want to do white text on a black background, stop. Difficult to read. That's why he was close to being stripped of his WBA belt, right? Sturm was close to being stripped, unless he fought one of the best fighters in his division at the time, Kazakhstan-born Gennady Golovkin. Fearing losing to Golovkin, one of the most dangerous fighters in the division, also meant the risk of a setback, blah, 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 right? So, his promoter at the time bought him the Super WBA middleweight title to basically avoid Golovkin and be able to fight bums or overmatched opponents, or so he thought, without having to fight, well, Mendoz, but more precisely Golovkin, right? So this dude paid €250,000, or his promoter did, to avoid Golovkin. Anyway, let's check this out. Give me a second here. Golovkin! Golovkin! Where are you? Oh, look at this. Pelirrojo. Here we are. So, wait, when was that? Sorry, guys. Having a little bit of fun. December 4th, 2012. Blah, 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 blah. So he said 2.5 years ago from this, right? 2.5 years ago from December 4th, 2012. So what would that be? That would be what? June, July 2010, roughly, right? That's when they bought him that title. Okay, keep that in mind. Middle of 2010. So the criticism that people who don't understand the situation in the WBA that they have of Golovkin is this little technicality, right? The fact that Golovkin supposedly he wasn't the champion within the WBA, which is bullshit because he was. They hold that over his head as, that they're not legitimate title defenses and all this other shit, right? You got channels such as Blood Boxing, who is just completely wrong, has no idea what he's talking about because that's just what he does. Guys, if you do enough digging, okay, and you fact check Blood's videos, I don't give a fuck when he made them, you're gonna realize you've been had, okay? This dude's just been fucking lying through his teeth and or spreading misinformation ignorantly. But that's just what he does. But anyway, Blood Boxing and clowns like him have been bamboozling you, basically. So when Golovkin in 2009, right, when he won the vacant World Boxing Organization Intercontinental Middleweight title, he basically positioned himself to become an eventual mandatory to Felix Sturm's title, right? So this is middle of 2010, right? Golovkin gets to fight for the interim World Boxing Association World Middleweight title, right? Interim. That's kind of like fighting, like Bihab fighting for a vacant title, right? Interim title is, look, the whole WBA title situation, we've been complaining about it for years. It doesn't make sense half the time. It's all fucked up. But in a perfect world, an interim title is when, let's say, the champion is injured or for some reason cannot fight you, and he's basically like a champion in recess or emeritus, depending on what the organization is, right? He's technically, he's not being stripped, but when he's finally able to come back to boxing, whatever the reason might be why he's not able to fight you right now, whenever he decides to come back to boxing, the interim champion and they have to fight to sort shit out, right? That's, in the perfect world, that's how it's supposed to work, right? So in the middle of 2010, when Felix Sturm was buying himself the super title, Golovkin became the interim champion by beating Milton Nunez, right? On paper, he became the interim champion. And then in his next fight against Julio Tapia, he fought for the full version of the title. Why? Because Felix Sturm didn't want to fight him. He ducked him. He gave up that title, right? So look, the WBA title is the title that Felix Sturm held, okay? That is exactly the title that Felix Sturm had when he was the so-called champion in the WBA. You understand? That's the title he held. And because he refused to fight Golovkin, he was effectively stripped, and Golovkin fought for that title against Milton Nunez. Okay? So Golovkin became the champion in the WBA. And Felix Sturm got promoted to a fictional title because he didn't want to fight his mandatory. You understand? He had to pay the corrupt sanctioning body to make this shit up so that he didn't have to fight Golovkin and everybody could make a lot of money with Felix Sturm fighting, overmatched opposition, or so he thought in many cases anyway. So when you look at the timeline and how things played out, and when Felix Sturm was promoted, right? They basically created the title, or they resurrected it technically, because it did exist. Look, the middle of 2010, right? Yeah, or late 2010, right around the time where his promoter says he bought him the title. Golovkin fought for the title that Sturm used to have, and he basically essentially vacated, right? Golovkin fought for that title, the main title, the championship title, the championship in the WBA, the one and only at that time, right? And they created or resurrected the super title to protect Felix Sturm. Okay, so Felix Sturm was the fraud champion. Golovkin was the real champion. Look, Bernard Hopkins fought he was the super champion back in 2005. Then Jermaine Taylor beat him, and he became the super champion, right? And then for 5 years, that title did not exist. This is like that. This is WBA's trump card to pull out their ass whenever they feel like charging more sanctioning fees or protecting somebody or for whatever reason, right? That title never existed. So if you actually look at the lineage again, from Felix Sturm to Gennady Golovkin, you see continuity there. And even though Golovkin did not fight Felix Sturm for that title, because Felix Sturm ducked him, it is precisely the title that Golovkin won. So if you're saying that Felix Sturm was the champion, and you want to track these titles and their lineages, how are you going to sit there and say that Golovkin is not the champion when it's the same title he held, that he won? And granted, it was vacant or interim, or however you want to describe it semantically. It is the same goddamn title. Felix Sturm was the WBA champion. He vacated that title, fought for a fictional title whose lineage has not been alive for 5 years, and was resurrected just to protect his ass from Golovkin, and any other eventual mandatory, right? He essentially vacated the championship, the WBA championship, bought himself a fucking trinket, and Golovkin fought for that title. So even though the lineage was broken because he didn't fight the guy that held it last, right? He had to fight for the interim title. The lineage was still, in a sense, continued because it was the same title. You understand? So Golovkin was always, as soon as he won that interim title, he was always the man in the WBA. And Felix Sturm was fighting for a bought and paid for, imagined, fictitious, resurrected from the fucking grave, insignificant title that had not maintained any sort of a lineage for the last 5 years. Okay? So for all of you clowns sitting there talking about how Golovkin didn't fight for the legit title. No, motherfucker. Felix Sturm had the fake title. Golovkin fought for the legit title. He was the man in the WBA. And if you're still confused about that, just check out who the better fighter was against the same level of opposition. Yeah? Yeah. Shout out to Bloodboxing. One day, my brother, maybe one day, my brother, you'll be able to tell the truth. Thank you for listening. I am out of here.